Awesome. Let's get going. I hope you can hear me well. I hope audio is going well and we should be live. Great. Welcome to this Twitter space that we're doing on a weekly basis, always on Tuesday. One thing I completely didn't see was the time change in Europe. So if you're listening to this in Europe, you are listening to this now at 12:30 p.m. It used to be at 11:30 a.m. It's still here, 6:30 p.m. in Singapore. And there were some people who asked me if we're doing it an hour earlier now. No, because we're doing this based on my time here in Singapore, because my entire day is pretty planned through. So it's not possible for me to do this an hour early, actually. But I hope you can still join us live. If not, then you can definitely listen to this as the recording. We're doing this, as I mentioned, on a weekly basis. We talk about current market updates that are happening on Cake DeFi, and we have a couple of those. Obviously, since last week, actually for the past 2 weeks almost now, we have seen a constant uptrending price. And I'm going to give you all the insights that I have on this. I'll discuss this with our co-host, Fabio, who's head of community. And I think you know really well from Twitter and Telegram and Reddit and all the great channels. I want to give you an update on what's going on in the company. We launched Learn and Earn today. It's a couple of days later. This was supposed to launch last week, but then we did have the new onboarding system for new customers, where just like in anything at the beginning, it's a little bit of a work in progress. And so we wanted to clean all this up last week. And there were quite a lot of marketing campaigns last week where we got a massive customer push. And so then we pushed that Learn and Earn for Bitcoin out for the day. These are the things I want to discuss. Obviously, if you have questions, then simply tweet at me at Julian Huss or directly at the company at Cake DeFi, and then we can cover those things. That's a bit of the intro. Obviously, if you're listening on the podcast and you don't want to miss any episodes, then please click the subscribe button. Obviously, we would love to get a really nice review from you, extra credit for that. And if you're listening to us live, then, I hope you have been following us on Twitter so that you don't miss any of those. With that being said, Fabio, how's everything going? Either you have audio issues, I have audio issues, but I can't hear you. Nope, still not. Well, I can then, Fabio, Julian, you're the best boss ever. I love all your opinions. You're always right. Okay, I'll get started. So Fabio seems to have the same issue as Cake at the moment. Cake is on, off, on, off, on, off. Simple reason. We launched Bitcoin Learn and Earn. That basically means you can come to our website and you can learn a bit about Bitcoin. You can answer a couple of questions and you're being rewarded with $5. A lot of people are using that. We see record traffic. We have been really spinning up as much server instances as possible. We didn't expect that kind of massive push. Many times when this stuff goes out, I know a lot of influencers and a lot of the affiliates and a lot of the kind of connections then start sharing about this promotion, and then we're just being flooded with interest, which is fantastic. But please bear with us if the site is on, off, on, off, on, off. So just be patient. We are not doing this on purpose. We are really, really struggling with so much traffic. And that doesn't mean that you should stop visiting the site. We would love you to come to the site and we appreciate all the interest. It's just if suddenly you have from one moment to the next, not twice the traffic, but multiples, magnitudes of traffic, it's just quite tricky sometimes to scale that. So on the one hand, quick announcement here, we do have the Learn and Earn for Bitcoin ready. So check this out. And it's $5. And it's really, I think, a fantastic way for you to get a small little incentive. And at the same time, if you're listening to this live right now and you're trying to check this out right now, then just bear with us a bit. Yeah.
Um,
Fabio, it's
test,
working.
test. Is this
Yes,
working?
and thanks for all the
Okay.
nice compliments you gave me once again at the beginning of the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Of course, I think I probably said the same thing as I said last time, so I'm completely on board with with all of that. Yeah, it's technical issues day, I guess. I don't know. It's twice in a row that we had this with Twitter. It's also kind of twice in a row we had this with Learn and Earn. We launched the first Learn and Earn program in I think 29th of October last year, and we also had the site crashing. We actually were prepared for this, so we prepared the infrastructure, and we were really looking forward to a lot of traffic. But yeah, we underestimated again, and so the tech team is on it, and they're fixing it right now. It's just crazy. Like I think we had two instances of crashing. First, when we made the social announcement, and then an hour later when we sent out the email. We were just, yeah, I don't know, a little bit overwhelmed with all the reaction, I guess. But I'm certain that the tech team will be ready in no time, and of course they're working as fast as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I see it I saw it on Slack already, where everything was trying to spin everything up. So should be all good. I'm sure. So yeah, I covered our Learn Earn in the meantime while you were relogging in. Kind of give a bit of an update there. Obviously, I talked about our successful launch of our new onboarding process. Percentage, like it's just insane. Our like the seamless process. I mean, we can track all this really, really well. I think all the like again here I don't want to give away our secret sauce that we are building on certain things, and obviously we don't want other companies to then just sneak peek and then kind of do like a lot of research. They have to figure this out themselves. But like from an onboarding experience, I think it's night and day. The speed is just absolutely different. The number of clicks you have to do is just absolutely fantastic. The percentages of approvals and the numbers of rejections or drop-offs, it's absolutely fantastic. So from a CEO perspective, exactly what I want to see on an onboarding experience. So yeah, we did this last week. It took a little bit until we fine-tuned everything, but I think now we're really on top of that. So yeah, welcome to all the new customers. We've got many over the last couple of days. So welcome. I hope you are baking cash flow as we're speaking. So talked about this, talked about the Learn Earn, talked about the server issues that are being fixed at the moment. Anything else on the update side that we need to cover? Stuff that you see in the community being discussed or talked? Yeah, anything that I don't see or any question that you see there?
Yeah, for me, it's always you touch on the new onboarding process, and I was very long under the impression that this is not working very well because I'm connected with the support team and I'm spending a lot of time on social media and on Telegram. And the sheer volume of people, let's say, complaining or saying they have issues with the verification, it was insane. So in my first conclusion is that this is actually not working as it should be. But we just had got the numbers, and as you mentioned, it's working like so much better than the process we had before. And it's just that also our sign up numbers are growing. So the issues that we see on Telegram, yeah, it's only a small minority that are affected. But it's sometimes difficult to put. Yeah, it's just a feeling you get when you're on socials or in our Telegram chats. And the volume right now, of course, everybody's asking about Learn and Earn and Bitcoin. And as soon as the website is up again, you will see. You can check the quiz out yourself. Yeah. Other than that, on Cake, it's a pretty uneventful week, at least until this morning.
Yep. And I mean, I also want to mention a couple of things. We had a discussion. We always discuss this, right? And I just want to throw this in, and then we're gonna talk about the markets, obviously. But like, if you, and again, this was not. I mentioned this a couple of times. Fabio and I go into like really 10 minutes before we drop in, and we're like, okay, what are we gonna discuss today? And it's like super spontaneous. We have like a couple of bullet points, but we never really have like this very, okay, this is the script and so on. No, we just kind of throw around with ideas. One thing I just want to throw in here, if, again, and this is probably very relevant to anyone that's actually running a company, or it may also be interesting for you if you're a team lead. Obviously, if you are a senior employee in a company, I think all these ideas are really relevant. This is a very well-known idea that if whenever you approach something, it's just like the blockchain trilemma, where you can never hit all three things. You actually have this in any kind of project, which means you always have kind of three factors. One is speed, the other one is cost, and the other one is quality, right? So these are the three things. So speed, cost, quality, and it's impossible to hit all three. So that means it's impossible to be like as fast as possible, with the highest quality as possible, and with the highest and with the lowest cost as possible, right? So you will always have to sacrifice for at least one. Sometimes you even have to sacrifice for two to go for one. And obviously, it really depends on the stage of an individual that you're in, as a company that you're in, and as a project that you're in. And so many times, and this is, I think, quite dangerous, the more experience, the larger a company gets, the larger a project gets, the more established you become. I always feel people tend to sacrifice speed and sacrifice cost for quality, which is like understandable. So you want to have zero mistakes, right? I mean, sure, everyone kind of expects that, but to have zero mistakes, so no bugs, no nothing, no hiccups, it's always like it's very tricky, because many times you always have like these super like unexpected kind of bugs, and so you would have to do so much testing and so much in staging and so on and so on. And so it's always tricky as a decision maker on what's the timeline and what's the kind of cost you associate with that in order to get what kind of quality. And I have just always been a CEO or a decision maker where I want to have enough speed where I'm okay in having some of bugs. So I don't have to be bug free, which is always, if you're a perfectionist, it always kind of pisses you off, because maybe you're that kind of person that just wants to be sure that everything is 100% correct. And obviously, if you launch something where the fundamentals are absolutely working, so fundamentally everything is fine, there may be a UX bug there, or there may be a small hiccup there, or there may be a disturbance there. Of course, I understand that this is frustrating sometimes for a customer, or this is frustrating for customer support. Obviously, this is frustrating for a community lead, because I mean, that's where kind of this pushback comes. Obviously, this also may be not nice for an engineer when the engineer is being told, we're launching this now, but the engineer is this perfectionist and knows, but like, I know that we could fix those one or two other things, and that just would make it perfect. I just always believe being a perfectionist is the enemy of execution, because you will always find something, you will always improve something. And so I will always, obviously, it will like be adjusted to the various products, right, to the various ideas. I mean, at no point do I ever want to take a risk for the company, or a fund risk, or at no point would I ever want to risk customer funds. I mean, this is very clear, right? But if this means that maybe something doesn't work out, and then you have, like, I understand that we may get a couple hundred or a couple thousand tickets in customer support. These are all things that I'm willing to do if that means we can accelerate incredibly. And the reason why I want this so much is because I always believe actually acceleration is what really matters. It's not so much the speed, it's actually acceleration. If you are flying on a plane and you're flying at, I don't know, 1,000 kilometers, like close to the speed of sound, right? 1,000 kilometers an hour, you basically don't even notice. I mean, it's kind of it's relative. It's basically all about Einstein's theory of relativity that kind of says if you are in a constant motion, you actually don't really know that you're in motion. You could just be basically standing in a room and you don't really know that you're moving. It's acceleration that you really feel. And so the key thing, and this is really what I want to give you in life in general, and that what I want to give you in a company or as a community, as a group, the thrilling thing, the thing that kind of gets you the adrenaline flowing. And when you talk to any of our 100 something team members, and I don't even know how many we are now because we're growing. I mean, I think we've hired, I think just today we had HR update. Like, I think we hired 30 people this quarter, which is just absolutely insane. crazy. I mean, this 12 weeks and we hired 30 new people. It's unbelievable. The team is doing such a fantastic job with referrals and applications and sifting through everything. Whenever you talk to a team member at our company, I can promise you, they all love the culture. They love everything that we're doing. And it's not too much speed. It's constant acceleration. And this is really, really, really difficult to keep up because constant acceleration also means that you have to be really, really careful with the throttle, right? It's like in a car. You can't just constantly speed up because that also means that at some point you're going to crash. So obviously also deceleration can feel very thrilling, right? So it can go both ways. And so we're doing this very kind of consciously and very kind of on point. So when, for example, over Christmas, right, we decelerated on purpose. So we started the year at a very low speed again in the company and in the team, right? We started cleaning up, speeding up, and we're going full throttle. And now we know already when it's going to be the next deceleration point in the company where everyone is going to get to take a break and really decelerates. And then it goes again. And so the super dangerous thing for you as an individual, I just want to kind of give that to you, right? Is when you don't feel that yourself, when you have this monotone, every day is kind of the same kind of thing. And as a decision maker, especially as soon as it goes into a group or an organization, this is where it just becomes very, very difficult to actually find that sweet spot. And it's this constant sacrifice where you're like, okay, I get it. We do have those two mistakes. Let's fix them, but let's launch at the same time. I know it's not perfect. No one's going to get harmed. Yes, I understand there's going to be 6 customers who are going to write to us and they're going to complain on social media. Sorry, customer support, and sorry, community manager, but it's totally worth it. And you as a customer also feel that. You feel that excitement. You feel that speed. And you're feeling this. You have been feeling this over the past couple of weeks. You see this left and right. And that's just what I want to share with you, because that is something obviously that has to be adjusted to the size of the company and the stage everything is in. Obviously, if you're this super large ship cruise liner with 100,000 customers, speed looks a bit different than when you're a company with 110 employees. But at the end, it's still always a bit of the same. And so kind of keep this a bit in mind for your own kind of reflection, right? For your personal relationship, maybe with your partner or your kids or your parents. When you're like, not so much what's the speed that you're going at? Are you feeling this acceleration? Do you have those powerful moments, right? And do you feel that thrilling excitement? Because at the end, that's where the bristling amount comes from, right? And so when a personal relationship gets like monotone, boring, that's actually what's happening. Everything has been going, you've been cruising, right? So you're not really utilizing that. If you are a team lead or if you are a senior employee or if you're a CEO or you own a company, right? Consider those things. I just want to pass it on to you. It's always something that I learned from other people where I always felt they managed to keep really amazing culture in the company, or they always had these really fantastic personal relationships. It really comes down to acceleration and deceleration, not so much on the actual speed that you're going. Speed is not exciting. It's actually the acceleration that's exciting, or the deceleration. So just kind of wanted to throw that in here as a bit of a mindset thing here. And again, maybe this is completely irrelevant to many of you, but I hope there's some value. Fabio, anything you want to add there? Something that you feel in the company? And I know like you are sometimes the victim there because you're like, no, Julian, we can't launch this right now. People are gonna slaughter me on social. And I'm sorry, I know. But what's your kind of feedback there?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit the other side of the coin there. As you said, like we can be honest with each other here. Most of you have been with the company for a year or even 2 years, and you have been with us for many product launches, with many campaign launches. And most of you know, especially in the beginning of the company, we were communicating our goals for tech timelines and for campaigns a lot in advance and very clear. And we were always kind of able to meet these goals. Most of the time were maybe a day late or maybe a week, but most of the time we were actually able to hit those goals. And this is both internally and externally. There is a culture of really, really high goals where everybody sits at the table in meetings and thinks, oh my God, this is not going to work out. And there is lots of initial doubt that these goals are unachievable. And then in the end, we kind of achieve them. Maybe we miss them by 10%, or maybe we miss them by a week or 2 weeks or something, like a short period in time or a short amount. But most of the time, we are getting there. And like everybody that has been with a cake product launch or a campaign day within the first hour, we have this tendency that there is we have some hiccups during the first hour of a product launch or when we have a new campaign, and we are honest about that. You can scroll through our Twitter timeline or through our announcements on product day. Sometimes it's a bit messy, but usually our tech team and everybody in communication, we communicate very clearly, and we are fixing these issues very, very fast. And we're very sorry that these product launches, the first hours, it's a bit messy for you as a customer. So what I can tell you, for us as a team, it is as well. Because all of us, we want to provide a seamless service and a great job, and we are really working hard on this. But yeah, sometimes it gets a little bit messy, and it's just so different testing area where we are with, I don't know, a few hundred users, and we simulate things and we try to anticipate, and then suddenly it's a live environment and there's 500,000 people coming onto the website. It's just so hard to, even Coinbase has these issues, and they are at a different stage. So what I can say as a teammate, it's thrilling. I would disagree with the statement that Julian makes. Everybody loves every single minute. There are minutes that are not so enjoyable, but most of the time it's very thrilling, and I really do love my work, especially maybe on product days. 80% of them.
Or especially when Bitcoin or DFI or Ethereum prices are up. I think that always sweetens the deal a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, community happiness index. If prices are up, everything is great.
Awesome. I think enough talking about the company. I want to use maybe 10-15 minutes on what's happening in the markets right now. You are a perma-bull, so I'm not sure how spot on that is, but you have been especially also in the company. I want to be clear here. I mentioned this last time. Fabio always has his moment of absolute spotlight and fame on Mondays when it comes to our stand-up, and he gets out his little presentation where he talks about what's happening in the community, talks about the numbers and the stats there, and then he always starts shilling crypto. Basically, anyone in our company that doesn't have 150% of his net worth in crypto after Fabio's presentation always feels like, I'm not sure, maybe I should really follow Fabio's advice here. So he has been uber bullish over the past 2 weeks, and you have been spot on right. Bitcoin has really seen a super solid rally. Altcoins seriously followed. I mean, some altcoins underperform Bitcoin, but most outperform Bitcoin over the past 1 or 2 weeks. So you definitely see there's the risk appetite back on. DFI has been doing insanely well. Obviously, I think a lot of it has to do also with the upcoming kind of forks or upgrades in April with additional burns. So I think there's a lot of hopium around this. But it's not only DeFi chain, it's really a lot of the altcoins. What are your thoughts on that? Where do you think this is coming from? We discussed this a bit. I mean, obviously, we talked about the Ukraine conflict. We talked about the Fed. But to be honest, nothing much changed there. Even if you look at the general markets, sure, like mid-March when the Fed announcement was, yes, the markets rallied. But you look at last week, for example, it was quite, I think, diverse. Some stocks were up, some stocks were down. It was not like this clear kind of direction in the entire market. What do you see in the market? What are people talking about? What are the influencers talking about? Where do you think or see this pump coming from? Do you think that's sustainable? I mean, I don't probably need to ask you if you think that's sustainable, but why do you think it's sustainable or why it's not? And what are the directions there?
Yeah, the funny thing is I kind of overheard a discussion that you were involved last week where you went into one of the reasons that could be a potential, but when you say it, you have some facts to back it up. And and when I tell these things, it sounds more like a conspiracy theory, but let me try. I think it's not a really sustainable area we are in. So it's a little bit of no man's land. We are moving in between moving averages, both on if you look at the NASDAQ or if you look at the Bitcoin weekly chart, we are maybe slightly above those averages right now. Of course, when we break out of these areas, if you look from a technical perspective, people are talking about an ascending triangle that would take us a little bit higher than where we are right now. we have a lot of people saying that there could be like a potential third leg up. So we're still in a bull market and we're going to see all-time highs. And I guess I'm somewhere in between, not all the way bullish, but fairly bullish. So I probably would say we could experience a little bit more of an upside over the coming, let's say, 60 days or so. And then probably a boring summer with lots of potential upsides at the end of the year with the midterms in the US. But right now, as most of you probably noticed, there were some nice discussions between Luna, Terra Luna, the foundation, where they made some statements that they're going to buy 10 billion of Bitcoin, 125 million a day. They started mid-March, and it kind of looks like this could be the reason why Bitcoin is moving higher, because around 15 March, Bitcoin started to do this stair walk, so up and sideways and up and sideways. And it could be potentially connected to, and this is, of course, my conspiracy theory side, that this is the main reason why we are looking at higher prices. If this is sustainable, I don't know, because they will stop at one point, and maybe they need to sell at one point. But maybe there could be other projects that say, hey, why not backing our stablecoin or our currency with Bitcoin? So it's definitely something interesting that is going on. What are your thoughts about the whole Terra Luna thing, or do you see something else that could have an impact on the price?
I think it's probably 80%. The current pump is probably 80% because of Terra. I know this out of first hand, so this is not so much like I don't know how much percent of the pump is from Terra, but I know out of first hand from a personal context that this definitely has a strong impact. It's impossible for me to guesstimate how strong that impact is, how long that impact will last. So at the moment, I would probably say let's just enjoy it as long as it's running. Again, if the Terra pump at some point becomes not as strong anymore, maybe it's not becoming as effective anymore, then the question a bit is who else is jumping on this? I mean, it could easily be that other projects try to kind of emulate what Terra is doing here by backing their stablecoin with Bitcoin. I am still a bit skeptical of the long-term sustainability of all that. I understand all the processes, but at the end, there is no free lunch in the market, right? If you don't create value, at the end, the price will always go down to its value. So if all you're doing, and again, this was, I completely timed the Elon Musk pump last year. I missed completely that Bitcoin was not the safe haven anymore. It is stablecoins. And so that was my big mistake end of March, beginning of April last year, when this pump was, where I felt, hey, prices are pumping. People are so FOMOing into crypto for no reason, right? Like, sure, the value went up, but did the value double? Like, just because like Elon is shilling Bitcoin? I'm not sure. And then it recovered, and then the exact same story came like 6 months later with Bitcoin futures ETF. And I said the exact same thing. I said, hey, I don't understand where the additional value is coming from. Did the value go up? Sure. Did it go up by, I don't know, 100% again from the bottom? I am not sure, right? And that's why I was just very, very, very cautious. And so I see the exact same phenomenon at the moment. Now, I don't think right now we are massively overvalued. I don't see this. I mean, we are under a little bit under 50,000. So, I mean, I wouldn't think that right now, even if there would be some like waning off here, that we would be totally overvalued. But let's say we would hit another all-time high here, I would just be very, very cautious. If that was the only reason why the price pumped and we don't see much else, you can look at the data and understand. You will, and I know, I always call them astrologists. You can look at the chart technicians, you can look at the blockchain analytics, you can look at all these parameters. Like, don't forget, prices do not dictate future prices. Future prices make the chart. That's the key thing. It's not the chart making the price. So I just want to be very, very careful here when people come and they're like, oh, but based on chart analysis or technical analysis, this is what should be happening. I would be very, very cautious in in doing this. I would also be very cautious at the moment when you find influencers or when you find these newspaper outlets who obviously have to make up a story on why is the price pumping. And I think some people just don't want to be honest to themselves, which is always a bit of a question mark for me as an investor, right? And here, again, I'm not talking as a CEO here. I'm really talking about purely from my personal perspective as an investor. And obviously, full disclosure, I build up a Bitcoin position, like a solid Bitcoin position short term right now. So like, as you may know, I exited Bitcoin last year, end of October, and I started building up a massive Bitcoin position in the past couple of days again, simply because I actually think that this rally has legs. And but that, so full disclosure here, right? I'm super long DeFi chain. I'm super long Ethereum, and for a long time again, I'm super long Bitcoin here. And so that's purely a personal kind of investment, right? So just want to be very, very clear. I also want to be clear. I think I mentioned this a couple of times. The treasury in our for Cake DeFi, the majority in that treasury is dollars, just because that is our expense. And I just like, this is not a fund. We have a fund with $100 million that invests in startups, but at the same time, we have the rest of the treasury is the largest amount is in dollars, and then from the remaining part, the largest amount here is in Bitcoin, right? And then the other part is Ethereum, and then we have a lot of other cryptos as well. So different kind of setup. So in my personal portfolio, DeFi chain is still the largest amount just because it performed so well. But now Bitcoin became a very, very solid position because I think that rally has legs right now. The key thing though to understand, and don't listen to the influencers now who try to spin this on technical analysis, or who try to spin this at blockchain analysis, or who, I don't know, try to spin this on geopolitics. Sure, all these things may have an effect, but if you really look at the price ticks and you analyze this really well, you see at the moment the majority of the pump is coming from Terra Luna going into Bitcoin. And so I don't want to go into the details here because I don't know exactly how much is maybe not for, maybe some things shouldn't be shared, or some things are maybe a bit more speculation. So I don't want to go too much into the details in the exact process, but people share the supposedly Terra Luna address. So you can kind of monitor that and see that. I do see some risk there for Terra Luna. I want to be clear here, right? I actually think they are, there is actually they're building up a bit of a risky position there. But at the same time, if they're going through with what they're saying, and I don't think there's anything that you should doubt about this, there's definitely a strong buying pressure. And now there's three outcomes out of this. Outcome one, it completely implodes, which is a possible outcome. I want to be clear here, right? So it's a definite outcome. And then we would definitely drop, I think, even lower than 40,000. I think we'd probably drop to 30,000 because it just pulls out the air out of the balloon. Possible scenario. The most likely scenario, in my opinion, is that we're just going to see this rally up. I think at the moment, from everything that I see, that I hear in the market, when I talk to other funds or friends or companies, they don't see much of additional attention from extra retail out there. They don't see much institutional interest at the moment. So at this moment, right, it just looks like we're going to keep going the way we have been going. I also think that's the most likely outcome. Who knows, right? I can't predict the future just like no one else can. And then the third one is you suddenly have a lot of others jumping on top, and then suddenly this goes parabolic. I'm not saying this is not a possibility, and you can hope for that. And you should definitely have skin in the game so that you are in all that. I still think it's actually going to pull the altcoin stronger than it's going to pull Bitcoin, because in general, risk on, and at the moment, there are just, way more, obviously, there's just way more upside in the altcoins than there's in Bitcoin. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin is the worst investment. It's the safer one. But I think by upside, I'll just have way more at the moment. And so that's how I would position myself a bit at the moment. I don't know, Fabio, what you see out there from other influencers or on Twitter or Reddit or Telegram.
I find it pretty interesting when you think about the game theory behind this maybe trend, or maybe not a trend. Is it when we have followers that approach the whole situation the same way that Terra Luna does? But let's just say The game theory is interesting because the whole market practically follows the movements of Bitcoin. You said there is more upside in altcoins. There's also more risk, but more or less altcoins follow Bitcoin's movement. So if you can now back your altcoin or your stablecoin with Bitcoin by buying Bitcoin, you practically have a win-win. So the Bitcoin price is going up, and the price of Bitcoin also kind of ups your price. And so in Luna, this has some crazy tendencies. Like I think they made new all-time highs, or almost yesterday or today, in a market where almost all other coins, maybe except DFI, are 30% away from their all-time highs, or still some room to go back in the direction of their all-time highs. So I could possibly imagine that there's other projects going the same way that Terra Luna does, and they say, hey, we have this, we want to back our currency with this, our stable coins, or there are so many potential use cases where something like that could happen, and maybe even increase the trend that we are already seeing. Lots of Bitcoin are actually on the Ethereum network, or on the DeFi chain network, or on Wrapped Bitcoin, or whatever. You see lots of interoperability where Bitcoins are locked up on other chains. There is a potential game theory that could play out that could be super beneficial, at least in the short term. Of course, there are also risks with these kinds of tendencies that we blow up completely if everybody is doing that. It's probably not sustainable, but it's definitely an interesting development that has my attention. Let's say it like that. Other than that,
no, and we have to, and I mean, look, we also have to add a couple things, right? I mean, in general, I think H1 is going to be a bit more of a difficult kind of half of the year than, in my opinion, H2. Second half is going to be, so maybe that's actually just going to like hand over to a bullish kind of handover anyways. I think that, like, for example, Grayscale has announced that they would go into a legal battle with the SEC if the ETF doesn't get approved in July. I think there's a very low probability for the ETF to get approved. However, maybe there's some handoff there where a kind of bullish trend at the moment can go into a parabolic run. That run would be like, you would get very scared and be like, oh my goodness, this is going to totally collapse. But that's actually then going to lead into some substance, right? And so I think you have to be really careful sitting here and saying, oh, this is just one kind of party minting dollars, similar like what Tether does, and backing that with the stuff that they're buying, promising you it's backed with the same thing that they're buying, right? So it's kind of, you have to kind of question a bit how much value is really being added into the system, and does this kind of really justify the rise of Bitcoin at the moment. However, there is a merit to make it till you, like, fake it till you make it, which basically means, okay, raise the price up. It goes to levels that may be not sustainable, but at that same time, now institutionals are coming in. Now the retail market is coming in, and that can completely change the fundamentals. So at the moment, this is definitely not there. Who knows? Maybe when we get to closer to a 60,000 or to a new all-time high, we see this, right? And I think we just have to be prepared here. And everyone who sits here, and that's why I posted on Twitter today, when I posted and I said, hey, at the moment, it's a very similar scenario as 2 years ago when the Fed said that they are basically buying the market. And anyone who sat there and said, yeah, but prices are not going to go up because actually everything is super, super bearish, and the only reason prices are going up is because the Fed is buying. Sure. And we do see a bit of the consequences now with the setback since November on all of this. But at the same time, any good investor doesn't just go and say, okay, I look at these 8 points, but I totally ignore the 9th point. And so these 8 points fit my narrative, and these 8 points are bearish because we have a pandemic, and we have this, and we have that, we have supply chain issues. No, I totally ignore the Fed saying that they're going to buy the market. It's exactly a similar scenario at the moment. Now, obviously, you have to evaluate for yourself how much do you put actually on this announcement, and how much additional buying pressure of 100% buying is actually being done by Terra Luna. Again, I actually think right now it's quite a lot of the pressure, and so that is just why I'm definitely bullish on the short term. I'm bullish on the long term. I'm a bit worried on the next couple of months, not next couple of weeks, couple of months. So I'm actually changing. I changed my kind of opinion here. I would say probably Friday-ish, end of last week, and that's just because the underlying facts changed. And so the midterm would get bullish as well if we do see the fundamentals change. And the fundamentals would mean retail being willing to be risk on, institutionals being willing to be risk on, either the Fed kind of slowing down, which I don't see. I think they're going to accelerate their raising of interest rates, or the general market doing bullish. The peace talks between Russia and Ukraine to go well. I think they started peace talks today. So these would be all kind of possibilities. So just be careful at the moment in really being blind to the facts having changed. At the same time, don't kind of interpret too much into it, and just be realistic about it. I think that's also important. I see so many people out there right now saying, "Oh, I was always right. Bitcoin is this risk off asset. Bitcoin has increased so much since the war in the Ukraine started." Sure, but why has it increased so much? Like, it actually doesn't have anything to do with the war. Actually, the war made it go down. It's that there's this one party who is aggressively buying at the moment. And I understand that you are a Bitcoin influencer, so you just want to spin the story the way you like it. But you listening here and hopefully being a good investor, great investors, they don't fall in love with their investment. They fall in love with purchasing power, and they see things as they are, not worse, not better, as they are. And that's absolutely essential here. I just wanted to add this here. I mentioned this before, Fabio. Are there any are things we need to mention here? Because I have a 7:15 p.m. hard cut off here because I am part of a panel discussion with a group of investors, and I need to be part of that. But I think we covered everything. Are there other things that you feel we need to point out?
Let's wrap it up. Maybe if you're thank you for tuning in. We're doing this every week. Normally, no, we changed it for Europeans, or for I think mainly for Europeans. It's 1 hour later now, so it's 12:30 and it's 6:30 Singapore time. And this will not only be available live on Twitter, you can also play the recording on Twitter. There is Spotify, there is Apple, there is Apple Podcast, there is YouTube. You can find this the recording of this everywhere if you missed the beginning. And maybe just one thing. Julian talked briefly about the onboarding process in the beginning, and this was, let's say, our base layer that was really important for us to fix, to really have a solid foundation, and it pushed some other things that we have already in the pipeline and ready for you a little bit back. So follow us on all our social channels, on Telegram, on Twitter. We have some great stuff that we are about to share over the coming weeks and months. Make sure you don't miss them.
Yeah, I think we're really going to launch. At the moment, I think we're going to have updates almost every week on new products, new ideas, new things. So tune in. Fabio, thanks so much for the feedback and the insights. Let's see how this all plays out. Appreciate it. And stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you so much. All the best, and bye-bye.